Today's project has these I can statements. I can listen to the book, The Poppy Lady, and learn about the history of Veterans Day and why a poppy is a symbol for the veterans. I can use oil pastels to draw poppies, and then I can use my watercolors to paint them in. The Poppy Lady, Moina Bell Michael and her tribute to veterans. Written by Barbara Elizabeth Walsh. Paintings by Lane Johnson. Moina Bell Michael looked forward to summer vacation when she returned home from her third year of boarding school in 1885. All appeared normal on the family plantation. Her two brothers were off fishing in Indian Creek, and her four sisters were busy helping her mother prepare for the big 4th of July barbecue. But Moina soon found that things were far from normal in the close-knit community of Good Hope, Georgia. In the 20 years since the surrender, the families who had lost everything in the Civil War were still unable to recover their losses and start over. And while Moina had been away, things had gotten worse. Drought had ruined the cotton crops, so people had little money. The children in the community couldn't even attend school. There was no money for a teacher. Moina's mother came up with a plan. From an early age, Moina was determined to learn. She had read the complete works of William Shakespeare. Now at age 15, she was well educated. Perhaps she could teach the neighbors' children. The thought interested Moina. At her mother's suggestion, she cleaned out a slave's log cabin abandoned on the plantation and set up school with two of her sisters, one brother, and a few local children. On that first day, Moina began class with a verse from the Bible, an inspiring song, and a prayer. Moina believed anything was possible if you did your best and followed through. Throughout her life, she often relied on her favorite motto, "Whatsoever your hands find to do, do it with all your might." March 1970. German U-boats had sunk another American ship. Would the president call for a war? Would Congress agree? Moina Bell Michael prayed not. She had been touring Europe when war first broke out in the summer of 1914. But now, bomb craters, trenches, barbed wires, and battlefields covered the beautiful countryside of Europe. The visions that made her shudder. April 1917. The paperboy wheeled his bicycle across the University of Georgia's normal school, slamming on his brakes as always when he reached Moina. Moina snatched the Athens Banner, the newspaper, away from him and was struck by a thundering headline. President Wilson asking for war. Moina slowly climbed to the top of the dormitory steps and held out the newspaper for all to see. It was striking how different personalities reacted to the sight of that headline as war began hammering against the home door of every American. Moina knew what that would mean to the college girls. She was their teacher and foster mothers. Their brothers and sweethearts would be of war service age. Some of their fathers even were. Moina promised she would let them know as soon as the President and the Continental Congress reached a decision. All night, Moina called the Athens Banner. Each time she was told to be patient. The president was still talking to Congress. At 10:30 p.m., she called again. "Tell the young ladies to say their prayers, to go to bed, and to go to sleep," the frustrator editor replied. When news broke, an extra edition would be delivered to campus and into Moina's hands. Sleep was out of the question. On campus, Moina looked to the stars and moon, bright on this clear springtime night, and breathed the scent of white Cape jasmine blossoms. She thought of the boys at the university. She offered all to God if only he would spare them. She thought of the boys throughout the country. If she could go in their place. Before dawn, the edition finally arrived. Moyna read Wilson's inspiring plea to defend democracy, to defend the rights of freedom of small nations, and to defend the freedom of the seas. America was going to war. Moyna then vowed to do everything she could for the soldiers. She wanted to remember them. Moyna knitted socks and sweaters. She rolled bandages for the Red Cross. And then she enlisted friends and students. She gave them a little remembrance of them to give to their family members over in the war to take with them. But Moyna wanted to do more than just roll bandages for the soldiers who were fighting overseas. Moyna delivered books, magazines, and candies to the nearby army camps. She and her friends had invited the soldiers home for dinner. I felt privileged to give my best welcome to these lads in my country's uniforms, she said. And when it was time for them to leave, Moyna went to the train station to see them off. My heart was filled with pride for their bravery, their courage, and their cheerfulness. They were so young. They were so innocent of the dangers they were going to face. Moyna felt like she needed to do more. Moyna decided to become a canteen worker for the YMCA and help the soldiers overseas. She listened about home and family and served food to men on leave from the battlefronts. In the fall of 1918, her appointment approved, 49-year-old Moyna headed for New York City to Columbia University and the training program headquarters for the Y. She successfully completed the course, but told she was too old to go overseas. Moyna refused to give up, but what could she do now? Moyna decided she could help the soldiers before they left for war. Moyna set up a desk in the basement of Columbia's Hamilton Hall, where the soldiers, sailors, and Marines and secretaries came during their free time. Every day brought privileges to serve men and women going overseas, each to face the submarine-infested Atlantic and the gas and bombs and shrapnel of the battlefronts. But as winter approached, the large room turned gray and gloomy. The soldiers deserved a brighter, more comfortable place. Moyna knew exactly what to do. With her small salary, Moyna brought fresh flowers and placed them throughout the room. All the soldiers enjoyed seeing them because more soldiers felt like coming to read and write. Often they also came to spend time with their family, friends, and sweethearts. They came so often that they were wanting a bit of attention, and Moyna was happy to look up photographs, listen to letters, and share the latest hometown news. But still, Moyna felt like she needed to do even more for these soldiers. On a Saturday morning, a soldier left a magazine at her desk. Moyna turned to a page that he had marked to find a poem called We Shall Not Sleep by Lieutenant Colonel John McCrae, a Canadian physician. She had read the poem many times, but she read it again, touched by McCrae's tribute to the soldiers he could not save on the battlefields of Flanders. The poem was most strikingly illustrated in color. Spirits of soldiers floated above a battleground covered in white crosses and bright red poppies. There were no names on the crosses, no memory of who rested beneath, just the red poppies. And then Moyna knew what she could do. She read the last verse slowly. Take up our quarrel with the foe, to you from failing hands we throw. The torch be yours to hold it high. If ye break faith with us who die, we shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders fields. To Moina, it seemed as though the silent voices again were vocal and whispering. She thought of her friends, and she thought of the students, and the soldiers at the Y, and she knew she could never forget them. Moina turned the envelope and wrote out a pledge ending with a promise. And now the torch and poppy red we wear in honor of our dead. Fear not that we have died for naught. We will teach the lesson that ye wrought. When she finished, Moina looked up at 3 war workers standing by her desk. On the behalf of everyone, they had come to repay her kindness. She shared both poems with the men. Impressed, they shared them with others. Soon, Moina was surrounded by men wanting poppies of their own to honor their buddies who were sleeping now among the poppies of Flanders fields. She knew what she would do. Moina took a $10 check from the gentleman and announced, I shall buy red poppies. I shall always wear red poppies, poppies of Flanders fields. Moina went poppy hunting on the streets of New York. It never occurred to me the difficulty I would have in finding artificial poppies in the novelty shops of New York City. At last, at Wanamaker's department store, she found 1 large and 24 small red silk poppies. Moina pinned one to her cloak collar and hurried back to the Y. It was evening and the room was quiet. Moina placed the large red poppy on her vase in her desk and held out 23 smaller ones to the men and women soon leaving for France. She watched as they pinned them to their uniforms. Still, Moina felt like she needed to do more. She would not stop until every American wore a poppy to remember the soldiers. Always. I hope you enjoyed the story of the Poppy Lady. We're going to be inspired by an artist, Gustav Klimt, who was a Vienna artist around the same time World War I was happening. He painted this picture in 1918 called the Baumgartner Flower Garden, and he used really simple shapes to create the flowers and really bold, bright colors to draw the eye in to look at all the pretty flowers. The field of Flanders, or the field of poppies that was talked about in the story, looks something like this. You can see how we can be inspired by Gustav Klimt's artwork to create our own field of Flanders. What shapes can we use to draw the flowers? What colors can we use? What kind of lines are we going to draw on our paper today? Here are some other ways poppies are interpreted for drawing and in art. And we'll have these out at the table so you can also get a closer look at them. These stickers come from the American Legion. As you can see, that similar circle design. And I hope what you're seeing is that you've noticed poppies have a black center and red petals. We can even look here at these ones made out of tissue paper. See how they still have the black center and they're red as well. So I'm sure you probably know what shapes and colors we're going to use today. We're going to use a black oil pastel to draw our poppies first and fill in our paper like Gustav Klimt's painting. And then you're going to use your watercolors to paint in the red for the poppies, and if you have little spaces, the green for the fields. If you remember, Gustav Klimt's painting was very abstract and with the simple shapes. So I'm not looking for exact replicas of the poppies. Again, you can use the stickers for reference at your tables, or think back to the picture that we showed, and you're just going to create your own Flanders field to honor our veterans for Veterans Day. And then if you want, you can add some petal lines in. And then if you want to add a stem in at the end of your poppies, you can. We're going to try to go for the 4 petals, but if you happen to make a mistake and make too many, that's okay. And we also want to create a variety of flower sizes and shapes. So maybe you might make small poppies. You might make a great big poppy. Remember our picture from actual Flanders field. The poppies kind of grow in every which direction, so they're not exactly all the same. They're organic in nature and they have the variety. I'm gonna go ahead and finish filling in my paper now with poppies. So go ahead and get started. Remember, we want a variety of poppies, and remember they have that same circle shape, and they also have the black circle middle. So you can continue adding your poppies, and I'm going to add mine as well. I finished filling in my page with all my poppy flowers. Now we're going to use our watercolors again to add color. We're doing the same technique called the resist, which we used a few weeks ago. So I'm just going to wet my brush really well. Come over here to my red. Get it nice and wet. And then I'm just painting all my poppies a red color here. Again, we're making nice smooth strokes as we're painting. That way our paintbrush stays nice. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and finish filling the rest of this in. You go ahead and do your red poppies now as well. Now we're going to finish our paintings with the background. You can either do a blue color, since this is our theme for Veterans Day and we are red, white, and blue, or you could do a green color because of the field being green. I think I'm going to go ahead and do a green color with mine because red and green are complementary colors on the color wheel, and so this is going to make the poppies stand out. And I'm just gonna start filling in my background now with the green. Now you have your very own Field of Flanders with the poppies to remember the veterans on this Veteran Day holiday.